our needs are so different, I'm not sure how they balance that, but they do a great job of it. As a matter of fact, our current president, is Louis Diaz, our board chair, I should say. And, one thing he wanted to do, which I applaud him for, he's an attorney from Northern Kentucky here. He wanted to get out with Lisa and meet all of the rural judges in our setting, at our offices, and to find out what the development district can do better, for the rural counties. And I think I answered just like all the other rural judges did, is nothing. I mean, we want for nothing, to be honest with you. There's nothing that we, have ever called and asked, of the area development district that they haven't been able to answer, and answer that calling. So we are so fortunate. I know there's been some issues with some other ads around the state, but the Northern Kentucky Area Development District is the shining star of the ads around the state.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, you folks out there across all this area, that's good. When you're hearing that from a county judge, that's a very positive thing. And because one thing that county judges know is the pulse of their county. They understand their counties probably better than anybody understands their counties, including even their state representatives or congressmen. Because the county judge is on the pulse. He hears the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say. And he has to deal with it all.
That's right.
And, well, now, let's ask, where actually is the county judge's office?
We are in the old courthouse, so right in the middle of town.
Right in the middle of town, so that's at the intersection of what highway?
It's on the corner of Seminary Street, and, our address is actually North Thomas. So Seminary Street is actually Highway 22 that runs towards Henry County. And then, North Thomas turns off to the right, and we're right there. Takes up the whole block there.
Takes up the whole block.
Yeah.
Well, now you folks know right where Judge Ellis is residing most of the time, when he's not out in the county helping with a problem, because county judges, they don't just sit in an office. They're, when they say judge executive, that means they're out. They've got road crews, they've got, and speaking of road crews, how is your maintenance team down there?
Good. We've reorganized in the last 2 years, have a new road foreman, have made some transitions to meet today's needs. We've had some attrition, some older folks are, they can't work forever, right?
Right.
Unfortunately. So we've had a little attrition, but we're working through it. We've got some new equipment. We've built up somewhat of a surplus, been able to build up a surplus over the last 3 years, to be able to address some of these needs. We're doing that primarily through a flex program and discretionary program through the state. But one of my main goals when I came into office was to look for every bit of outside funding possible. And we've been able to do that. So, that's not only helped with our general budget, but with our road budget as well.
Speaking on the budget there, Judge Woods was telling us the other day about how it was difficult for him to have to increase some taxes to pay for things that, frankly, that had built up from previous administrations, and he caught a lot of flack over that, doing that. But as I told him, and he realized that sometimes when you're in an elected position, you always have to go into that with the mentality of that, look, I'm gonna make the right decisions, even if it costs me my job, because my job is to do the right decisions.
That's right.
And I admired him for saying that. But I wondered, how is your all's finances there the way they are right now, and what are plans with that?
Somewhat the same. We've had our ups and downs over the past decade. As I said, my primary goal when I came into office was to do more with less and look for all outside funding as possible. I'll use public transit as an example. We're one of the only counties in Kentucky that has their own public transit program, and the only county that is actually a subcontractor for the brokerage, for the Medicaid non-emergency medical transportation brokerage. And I know that that's a lot of information, but the bottom line is this. We were providing a public transit service that was costing the taxpayers of Owen County an average of $6,000 to $8,000 a month out of our general budget. We've been able to reorganize that to become a subcontractor. and to utilize that grant funding in such a way that we've created, about 8 jobs, total, full-time and part-time. We've increased our ridership from about 300 patient contacts a month to over 1,000. And instead of costing the taxpayers of Owen County $8,000 a month out of the general budget, we're having budget surpluses.
Well, that's magnificent.
So that's just one piece of the puzzle. We've been able to do that with just about every department. But it's just about trying to keep local tax dollars local, and all of the unfunded mandates and things that are pushed down from the state and federal government. We try to get out ahead of those, and we try to look for alternative fundings before our backs are against the wall. We have to spend taxpayer dollars to meet those requirements.
That's the true meaning of when they say judge executive, because really, in reality, you're the CEO of the county.
Yes.
And that requires some deep thought, some imagination, like you said, what you've done with transportation. And it's amazing that you have any transportation in a small county like that in the first place.
Well, if we didn't manage it ourselves, we would. Grant County, for instance, they're much larger. They're more centrally located to northern Kentucky, but they don't even have a local public transit program. So.
Well, that's fantastic that you're doing that, and I hope that others can learn from the methods that you've used in Owen County to provide that for their citizens in other counties.
Yeah.
So that's what makes a good judge. And now, what about? We're going to talk a little bit about here now state government. How can the state help you more or help you less? Sometimes it's better to have one or the other.
I can tell you, in my opinion, they can help us more by helping us less. If they would stop, every year it seems that there's when unfunded mandates is a term that's used a lot. And a lot of people think of unfunded mandates as a rule or a regulation, which it is, that, okay, you have to wear a specific, one, for instance, that came up a few years ago, was mandated a specific type of reflective gear for emergency workers. And that was a small amount of money, but every dollar counts, right? But other unfunded mandates are things like our jail system. There's legislation being proposed now, and it was worked on last session, and most of it did not pass, thankfully. But they continue to lessen the burden of state government and push those burdens down to the local communities. For instance, the jail service, the housing of the inmates, the different levels of offenses. So right now, $500 becomes a felony, which mandates that person to become a state inmate, and so the state is required for incarcerating that person. Anything below that, a misdemeanor, is a county issue, and the county pays a daily stipend to house that inmate. Things like they were proposing raising that felony limit from 500 to 2,500. So what that does is, and maybe rightfully so, I mean, $500, somebody can steal a cell phone today and it's a felony offense. But at the same time, what that does is those folks, instead of being the responsibility of the state, they become the responsibility of the county. And most taxpayers in Allen County don't realize that their general fund tax dollars are going to house inmates in a jail institution. So we look at those as unfunded mandates as well. Every time the state lessens their burden, it's pushed down to the local community.
And that can be detrimental, and without a doubt, to have to have a reasonable approach to that. Now, what about, we say, where have you been? We've talked about that. Where are you going? What are you seeking? What do you seek out of county government other than just less mandates? Is there anything that could be helpful to you and down at from Frankfurt in the way of new taxes or new programs?
Yes, yeah, sure. But we talked a little bit about roads. That was one of the big pushes last session. We have a coalition, a statewide coalition. So all governments, cities and counties, contractors, Kentuckians for Better Transportation organization, everyone collaborated together to form an organization to push for, the motor fuels tax, to reorganize the motor fuels tax. So today, county and state government too, the funding received today to take care of our roads is 35% less than we received in 2012. So as you know, 35% less than we received, plus costs have gone up by,
Yes.
you know, who knows, 15% or 20 or maybe more. So, the House passed measures to take care of that, to kind of move us forward, to implement some different fees on hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles and things of that nature, but for some reason, the Senate didn't even wanna have the discussion. And our roads and our infrastructure, it's not just roads, you know, in Owen County, we talk about roads, but in other communities, they talk about river ports, railroads, and things of that nature, so, and airports. So, you know, that money is desperately needed. Kentucky talks about being, our current administration talks about being, open for business. Well, part of being open for business is having the infrastructure to be able to handle that business, and if we don't do something soon, we're not going to have.
That's a very important point. In fact, it's a big part of what President Trump has been trying to do to initiate a plan with Congress to do a massive infrastructure thing all over the country. Not only would it create jobs, but it would also help the economies in all the various states around the union. Of course, you have to be careful when doing all of that, and that you don't do more harm than good, but infrastructure is something I think everybody can look and see with the Brent Spence Bridge, with our roads, and like you said, with costs going up and money's coming down less to the local communities, it puts you right in a bind.
Right.
And so we have to be practical about these things and realize that we do need an initiative on that area. And what about where you're going with healthcare in your region there? How are you all affected by the new changes that have taken place?
Well, we actually lost we had a rural access hospital, and it actually closed. It's been on the fringes up and down for the past decade, and it was being managed by a local nonprofit that was put together.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then St. Elizabeth came into town, and they worked out a deal, and St. Elizabeth kept our ER going for about 18 months. But just with healthcare reimbursements, and just the way healthcare has changed, it was unmanageable. So we became a statistic. There've been 80 or 100 rural hospitals closed in the past 4 or 5 years throughout the nation, and unfortunately we're in that statistic. We have a great EMS service. We've been able to, over the last 4 years, over my term, to make great investment into our EMS service, primarily because we saw this coming. We were able to make an investment in some new equipment because we knew we'd be traveling more miles. Make an investment into our employees' education because we knew they'd be managing their patients for a longer time. So we were ahead of the game. You know, everything's not peaches and cream by any means.
Where do you go with your patients and
well,
emergencies?
as we talked about the large geographical area of Owen County, it really just depends on where the call originates from. So in one part of the county, we may go to Carroll County Hospital. In the northern part of the county, we might come to St. E. Florence or to Edgewood. Primarily, most of the things from Owenton, from the county seat south, we go to Frankfort because they're in a high-level trauma center there. So it hasn't been.
Sounds like you've managed it very well.
We have, and we have 2 great air medical services, which we're out ahead of this issue with us, and we've implemented some protocols with them to expedite their services as needed, and it's been difficult. Don't get me wrong, it's been difficult, but we've made the best of it. The employees are dedicated to the residents of Owen County, the EMS employees, and from an emergency standpoint. Now, from a non-emergency standpoint, what we also did, seeing this, is we know that preventative health care Preventative health care is very important. So, we have two local clinics, Triad Health Clinic and Health Point Health Clinic. And they've been a great partner in our community and in our needs too, and trying to educate the community. For instance, we did a big campaign on when to dial 911, because we didn't have any idea with the hospital closing, what may go through folks' minds, if they had what they thought was an emergency. So we had a big campaign, they helped with that, we've done a great job, in promoting the, preventative health care, and all in all, it hadn't been, it hadn't been great, but we've certainly made the best of it.
Fantastic. Now, Casey, do you have an opponent in the general election?
I do.
So when you get through this election here, you wanna stay on for at least 4 more years and longer if you can, you're a young man. Well, sometimes experience is a big thing and a big help,
Yeah.
And so, not like I said, no disrespect to your opponent, I don't know who he is, but you're the county judge now, you do a great job down there, so, and you surely got a lot of wonderful history, so I guess the best thing, is there anything you look out there and like to say to the folks of Owen County and Northern Kentucky and wherever's listening to this?
Yeah, the folks of Owen County, I'm here, I'm dedicated to the community, I think most of them know that, and I appreciate the support, that I've been shown over the past, 3.5 years. As we spoke, we've lost a manufacturer, we've lost a hospital. It hasn't been easy, but, financially, we're in better shape now than we've been in over a decade, and we're ready for the future. We're moving forward. And for anyone outside of Owen County, I would say come see us. We talked a lot about our agricultural heritage, our rolling hills, the fact that we have so many places to stay, 13 different bed and breakfasts. We have the state's largest winery in Elk Creek Vineyards, which has, I think, has a dozen rooms to stay. And we've made those investments in the community. We're cognitive of what we have, and we'd love to have you come see us.
And don't forget the Steepleview Farm.
Steepleview Farm.
Owen Sweet Owen Days, and tonight, if you're watching right at 4 o'clock, come on out to where?
It'll be at the Owen County High School, in the auditorium. We'll have a concert with Third Time Out, one of the greatest bluegrass bands ever, and opening for them will be the Downtown County Band, our local favorite, and you won't be disappointed to make the short drive down to Owen County tonight.
And at the end of the show, you'll see Casey Ellis's Judge Executive of Owen County. You'll see his web or his email address there, where you can get in touch with him if you got more questions. And I'll close today. This is John Stephenson, former Superintendent of Education, Commonwealth of Kentucky, saying, are you ready? When Jesus knocks on your door, invite him into your heart. You'll see a changing world with love. And to Casey Ellis and to all of the folks of Owen County, I say, happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. I'm glad Casey Ellis is my friend. God bless you, Casey.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Had a blast. It was awesome.
Wait just a second. It was a pleasure having you on.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
See there? You'll put yours up here in a second.